down to dunk.
And I'm down to dunk. I'm down to dunk.
This is J-Dub, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lindy Waters, and I'm down to dunk. I'm Mike Muscala, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kenneth Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to dunk.
We say this is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
Cracklin Oat Bran?
Have you had Cracklin Oat Bran?
No,
No. Okay.
but it's healthy.
Are you a big oat brand guy?
I'm a big Oat Bran guy.
Okay.
I think I would switch it with Fruity Pebbles.
Okay, eat faster. Don't put as much in the bowl.
Do you have a gallon of milk I can also take home?
You don't have milk in there?
One cinnamon toast.
Okay.
Crunch. Yeah. Cereal is great. Yeah.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on Wednesdays, is my good friend Alex Speers. Alex, what's up?
What's up, Andrew? Welcome to Bird Night, Part 3.
Woo! Man, the fact that, how crazy is it? Has it really even sunk in for you that the Thunder won 40 games and are in the play-in tournament tonight?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has.
It's still kind of crazy to me. It's still kind of weird. I flipped on SportsCenter for the first time in years this morning. And just to see Shea as a part of their preview.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
No, something we're going to do later is I went back and listened to our preseason pods, and I will say listening to those was helpful just to put me back in the mindset that we all were in at that point. Because you guys gave win predictions and things like that, and so that did kind of give me some perspective on how far this team has come. And honestly, I feel good about the fact that if you look. We felt so bad about those two games, the Charlotte and the Pacers game. Yeah. But I think if they were 42-40, they still wouldn't hold the tiebreaker over either Minnesota or New Orleans. So it didn't matter in the end.
Didn't matter.
So that makes me feel better too. Because I really wanted to go back and be like, if we had just won those two games, we would be the 5th seed. But that's not the case. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with how things turned out. That would have been crazy to finish with 42 wins or even 500. As as a solid marker that you can point to. But yeah, 40 wins is super impressive. And, I would say the strongest 10th seed we've seen, Andrew. I know that Charlotte had a better record last year. They were 43-39. I looked it up.
Yeah, but come on.
This team has a better net rating, better SRS. They're just a better team.
Yeah.
So you got to throw all those records out the window because I did look them up, and 10th seeds are 0-4, have never won a game. But throw those out the window because this is the best 10th seed we've ever seen.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about that they are that. How are you feeling about the matchup tonight overall? What's your gut feeling here?
My gut feeling is loss, but I'm also open. I would say I'm 65-35 right now in favor of the Pelicans.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking on Cleaning Glass, just going back through all their 4 matchups against the Pelicans. Now I know that Zion played in one, Brandon Ingram didn't play in a couple, but I just wanted to see if there were any trends over those games. And obviously the first one that stood out is that all these games have been disgusting offensively for both teams. The best offensive rating in any of these 4 games for either team was the most recent game in early March. The Thunder had an offensive efficiency of 110.1 points per 100 possessions, which, to put that in context, is like an average Houston Rockets game. And that was the best offense we've seen from either of these two teams in their 4 matchups.
Mm-hmm.
So the games have been ugly so far. And we know that. Just thinking back to the Pelicans game, just the way they play defensively tends to lead to really gross games.
Yeah.
Now they've all been super close, so they've all been entertaining in that way. But this hasn't been like an offensive display at any point for either team. Now, part of that was Jose Alvarado, who is out.
Yep.
He contributed to that a lot. The other thing, though, that popped up that was very consistent across all 4 games was that OKC was very, very good at generating turnovers against New Orleans.
Yeah.
Very good. Just going by game, the percentile they were in, 98th percentile, 94th percentile, 84th percentile, 97th percentile. They generated turnovers better against this team than almost any other team in the league. Now, I say almost because their 2 best games in terms of turning the ball over. Do you know what team that would have been against?
Celtics?
Houston, which makes sense.
Gross. Yeah.
Yeah. But so I guess what I'm thinking is like, okay, they've been very consistent with generating turnovers against this Pelicans team. If they can do that and just match it with a solid night of shooting, it doesn't have to be great. It just has to be a solid night. I think they can get the win. But they really need that because they shot the ball really poorly in 3 of those 4 matchups. And the one matchup they shot it well was the game they won. Yeah. Every other game, terrible. Like of their bottom 24 worst shooting performances this season, 3 of them came against New Orleans, and they were all 32% or worse in those 3 games from 3. So I think if you can get a combination of a good shooting night, which we've had random good shooting nights, and then continue to turn the ball over and try to get out in transition to kind of offset the half-court disgustingness that happens on both ends, I think that would probably be the recipe for success. But it is very scary because you're on the road, first time playing in like a really meaningful game against a good team, and with the chance to win. Because I mean, they played really well against the Warriors and the Suns coming down the stretch, but didn't win either of those.
Yeah.
Then they win that game against the Jazz, but of course they're sitting everyone. They win the game against the Grizzlies. It's must win, but like ended up not really being that kind of a game. This is really the biggest game of consequence, biggest stage we've ever seen from this team. So I'm interested to see, who steps up, who doesn't, and do we talk about that person the rest of the summer? Got to get them out of here.
I'm interested too. Big discouraging stat if you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
The last 10 games of the season, the Pelicans are 3rd in net rating.
Yeah, and that was with now some of those games ended up being not as scary as they initially looked, but overall their end of season schedule was very good too.
Yeah. Yeah, they played really well down the stretch of the season. And it's with largely this team. I mean, they beat the Knicks, they beat the Grizzlies, they beat the Clippers, they beat the Nuggets. And a lot of these are blowouts. They blew out Portland. I mean, that's part of why they ended up with like this great net rating. It's like they blew out Charlotte, they blew out San Antonio, they blew out the Clippers, they blew out Portland. They had 3 losses to Golden State, Sacramento, and then obviously that one to Minnesota. So, having that many blowouts toward the end of the season kind of inflates that number quite a bit, while the Thunder just played close games, night after night.
Nonstop. Miserable, terrifying close games.
Yeah, so that certainly hurts them. They did get 5 days of rest, which I think is helpful.
Yeah, I mean that's the longest rest since the All-Star break.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's nice. That is something.
They played a grueling March. I think they played the most games of anybody in March. They played 17 games in March, which is insanity. I mean, it's absolute insanity. And if you look at just the ball handlers for New Orleans, like they really, like, who do you trust that like plays big minutes for them? I mean, the only guy off the bench for them is Josh Richardson, and then it's CJ and BI. Those are like their main ball handlers. And so it's not that just makes it a little bit tougher, where OKC is going to play like 3 guys that I think you really trust, where they're going to put a lot of trust in Josh Richardson just because I don't think they're going to play like Dyson Daniels or Kyra Lewis or Garrett Temple. But I feel a little bit better about the guys that are going to have the ball in their hands for OKC than I would for New Orleans.
Definitely. And as scary as BI is, the fact that their ball handlers are a little bit more limited overall, I mean, that probably contributes on their end why their offensive efficiency has been so poor against OKC.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm obviously ready for anything, Andrew. I'm ready for anything to happen. As we saw last night, you cannot predict the play-in.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, both games, I don't know if I should say I was impressed. I thought it was a nice win for Atlanta, considering all they've been through. They were up there with some of the like worst vibe teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought Quinn Snyder coming in they were gonna get like a coach bump, and start playing a little bit better. It didn't really happen.
Nope.
But for them to go into that game against Miami, against a team that destroyed them last year in the playoffs, and get that win, regardless of what happens to Boston, I thought that was a really nice win and a nice kind of send off for them to go into what is probably going to be a very busy summer.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very impressed with that. And then the Lakers-Wolves game was just immaculate. I mean, it was.
My gosh.
I don't know if there's a team in the league that can swing so wildly between two extremes more than the Wolves, like in a single game.
Yeah.
Because the Wolves through 3 quarters, there are times when the Wolves just look unbeatable. And it reminded me of the Grizzlies series in the playoffs last year, where there were multiple times during that series where I was thinking, like, I think the Wolves might just be the better team.
Yeah.
I think they're just better than the Grizzlies. But then they would just have they'd flip a switch, the wrong switch, and they just start playing some of the dumbest basketball you've ever seen. And it happened again last night, just like terrible turnovers, a terrible shot selection, like Cat completely disappearing after being amazing through 3 quarters. Anthony Edwards didn't really have a good game the entire time, but they must be such a frustrating team to follow as a fan because they tease you so much. And then when the collapse comes, I mean, there's the stat about they've given up the second most 10-point leads in the 4th quarter. The only team that's given up more is Portland. And that kind of speaks to how they swing between these two extremes. But that was a very entertaining game. And that was the only game that like really changed how I thought about the playoffs. Because now looking at that Grizzlies-Lakers series, before I would have thought, oh man, with Steven Adams out, Lakers size, like I probably would lean Lakers. And then just watching the Lakers last night, it's just like, is this team any good?
Yeah.
Are the Grizzlies significantly better than the Lakers? I don't know. That was the only game that made me like kind of rethink what that potential playoff matchup would be like.
I know. There's been a lot of people hyping the Lakers. And you watch that game last night and you're like, did they just win that game by accident? Did they just like win that game because the Wolves just forgot how to score for
I know, 'cause
7 minutes?
And usually you can just kind of, a lot of times when the Lakers would like come close but fail, like in the game against the Clippers, that was like a huge pivotal game for their playoff hopes. You can just kind of write it off. You can just be like, wow, it's still the regular season. Like, okay, now it is like do or die time. Like, why are we still playing like this, Lakers? Like, why is he not ramped it up defensively yet? Is this going to be the LeBron that we get? Because if that's the LeBron we get, I don't know why I should be confident about them against the Grizzlies. But it was very entertaining.
Yeah.
A+.
Yeah. I mean, you had like the sliding foul by LeBron. You had like the backcourt violation by Kyle Anderson. You had Schroeder finally getting that 3, and then LeBron and Schroeder did like the choreographed ice in the veins.
Yes.
It was like
you had Taurean Prince throw that pass that was maybe 10 feet above whoever was in the corner that he was throwing it to. And then you had AD fouling a 3-point shooter.
Yeah.
By the way, that was I forget who the inbounder was, but that was like a great pass. And I almost wish Conley had taken an extra second because he had 1.4 seconds. But again, AD's coming at you, so you kind of feel like you have to get it off immediately.
How do you not cover Mike Conley, who's basically the only guy who hit threes all night?
I know, 6 for 8 from 3, and he's wide open.
Leave that guy in the corner. In the corner? It's like, come on. I mean, that was just it. It was an abomination.
I loved it.
It was such a disastrous game. What a complete disaster.
Hey, real quick, back on the Hawks game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some Thunder fans' favorite, John Collins, had a very nice game. He had a couple of clutch plays there at the end.
Yeah.
That play he had when he was falling out of bounds and then bounced past it to Sadiq Bey underneath the hoop. That was really impressive.
He helped seal the game for them.
Yeah, he was great.
How are you feeling right now if you're a Detroit fan with Sadiq Bey? I mean, Sadiq Bey actually played pretty well for the Hawks last night.
Well, you know, it's not like you gave him up for nothing, Andrew. You did get James Wiseman back.
Yeah.
The postmaster.
You feeling good?
Get it in the sense that he's up for an extension. And so if you've decided you're not going to pay that guy, but you look at their team going forward, it's like, well, I mean, there's not a ton of, huge contracts on this team.
Yeah.
I mean, they were willing to give Marvin Bagley 3 years guaranteed. They're willing to pay James Wiseman $12 million for, I think, another year. Maybe he's up for extension this summer.
He's
but other than that, it's Bogdanovich. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be crushed, but I would feel a little twinge of pain just seeing my guy who's been on this tanking team doing nice things in a playing game, like in a game that matters.
Right. Yeah, played 33 minutes for them. They obviously trust him.
He's big too.
Yeah, I just don't like the trading a wing for a big proposition.
What about when you just drafted a big and you have another big that you just gave 3 guaranteed years to? What about then?
And also, you were trying to get the number 1 pick where the number 1 pick is a big. So,
yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do. I think their picks this year were
got to get a new
great.
coach.
They're gonna get a new coach. I thought their picks this year were great. I like Jalen Duren. I like Jaden Ivey.
Yeah.
So Cade's gonna come back healthy. Maybe everything works out. I do think they have the talent there, but they're still in the figuring it out period. I mean, Ivy and Cade have to play together more than 10 games.
We're going into year 5 of this rebuild.
Well, it's year 4, if we're being fair, because Weaver wasn't there the first year. Pistons fans always want to remind you of that.
But what does that matter? It doesn't. I mean, there's still a year that the rebuild is going on.
I think there's a year in fans' heads because they had to experience that year. But in Weaver's argument would be my reign didn't start till I drafted Killian Hayes, which he probably wouldn't want to say that
That's
either.
Not a sentence you want to say, yeah.
But yeah, I think it was on Bill Simmons' podcast where they picked Detroit as the most deserving team, I think, to get Wemby.
Seriously?
Which I thought was confusing. I mean, I don't like to do the deserving or non-deserving because in all honesty, none of these teams deserve Wembanyama. Wembanyama is going to completely change these franchises, and none of them deserve it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I had a pick for that other than our hometown team, the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have exceeded expectations, who bucked the trend of tanking. Everyone thought they were going to tank, including all of us. And they deserve him, Andrew. Jumping up to the top 4. Let's go.
That's right. The Pistons haven't won a playoff series since 2008.
Yeah, I only know that because I love reading the replies to James Edwards' tweets because Pistons fans constantly bring that up anytime he tries to give a nuanced answer about when this rebuild started or something.
Yeah.
And then they're about to turn the corner. You'll always see that reply. And then I sent you the one yesterday where the guy just sent a page of lyrics that all just said, "Please shut up, please shut up, please shut up."
They've had 8 different coaches since in between winning a playoff round.
It's rough. And I totally get it from James's perspective and from Troy Weaver's perspective. But when you're a fan in that situation, you've been there the whole time.
Yeah.
So you have all that baggage coming with you. And yeah, you know that you're in this new rebuild, but you still had to experience everything else. So you still remember that you haven't won a playoff series since 2008. You can't just forget that.
Yeah.
So I totally get why Pistons fans are antsy.
Yeah, this is 4 years of 23 wins is the most they had, which was last year. this year of 17 was the least amount that they've had. Is it maybe ever? It might be ever.
In franchise history?
Franchise history.
Yeah, I posted that thing yesterday looking at the worst 3-year stretches because that I was counting 3 years because that's when Troy Weaver came in.
Yeah.
And it ended up being the 18th worst in NBA history. Now, like 4 of those were Vancouver. No one, I would like a documentary about Vancouver.
Like how that failed.
Oh, I have a pretty good idea why it failed. I mean, just looking at the wins losses, like what fan base could withstand 5 straight years of truly terrible basketball like they had? So I actually get that, but I just don't understand why they were so bad. Why could they never? I mean, they had 4 of the entries in the bottom 18 for worst 3-year stretchers. Now they all were overlapping each other.
Mm-hmm.
But good Lord.
Yeah, it's rough.
Process was number 2.
Wow. Yeah, it's the worst year in franchise history for the Pistons.
Yeah.
Even way back to the Fort Wayne Pistons.
Oh, wow.
The 40s and 50s were never this bad.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of teams who have pressure on them this summer, I would rank it as Portland number 1, Detroit number 2, Houston number 3. The only reason I put Houston number 3 is what we're kind of talking about. Like they were in the playoffs a couple of years ago.
They're putting pressure on themselves too, though.
They are for sure, but they still have a runway a little bit. Whereas I feel like Detroit has to be better.
Yeah.
Detroit needs to be, I mean, they were, as we've talked about, they were the highest over-under team among all these bad teams going into the season. People thought if you were taking the over, most bet over, you thought they're going to win 30 games.
Yeah.
So they need to be up by they need to be up in like the 35 win range, fighting for a play-in spot next year. Whereas if like the Rockets are like 27 wins, I don't like whatever.
What's funny though is like the Rockets are just so funny because they anybody who is going to possibly interview for this job is being leaked like immediately. You know.
Yeah, I was very surprised that the Nick Nurse thing is like so well known.
Yeah, well, that's probably coming from somebody within the Rockets that are just like we're just going to put out there every single thing. We're also going to tell everybody that like, hey, the losing is over. We're losing now for Houston this summer with free agency, and it's like this might be one of the worst classes ever. They're really just betting on James Harden coming back. Yeah, man, it is so weird. It is maybe it goes well, but boy, like their process behind it is just really ugly and really strange. Have you seen the injury report for their Pelicans?
No.
So for the Pelicans, obviously you have Zion and Jose Alvarado are out, but local soreness tonight, which is kind of a big deal because he was the big off the bench that played against Minnesota. And then for the Thunder, Poku is officially out, and then their two-way guys can't play in the play-in game. And then obviously you have your Kenrich Williams, and they listed Chet Holmgren as out as well. So,
I forgot about the two-way thing. So no Jared Butler tonight, guaranteed
no Jared Butler. Yeah, they can't play in the game because they're not eligible. That's the funny thing is like so many people are in my mentions like the play-in isn't the postseason, you know. And it's like, well, I called it the postseason because, yes, it actually is the postseason.
Yeah, it is the postseason. It's not the playoffs.
When does it happen? It happens after the season, post the season. I didn't say playoffs. So it's just funny the amount of people who are like, it's not the postseason, man. It's like, well, if it wasn't the postseason, why are the G League guys ineligible to play?
That's right. Yeah, no. And so that means that if we need some bounds at some point in this game, we can't throw in Olivier Sarr. Is that what you're telling me?
No Sarr time.
Wow.
No Sarr time.
Damn.
It's just nobody.
Yeah. So if Yeah, I heard. I was listening to your pod yesterday. So if Valanciunas doesn't play a ton of minutes again, which has kind of been the trend in these
Mhm.
matchups against OKC,
Mhm.
it sounds like Jackson Hayes will be the most likely big off the bench. Who he's had good games against the Thunder,
He had
but
a great game against the Thunder. Yeah.
yeah, so he would be probably the big off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I would assume that would be the case, and it's a pretty like boom or bust proposition.
Yeah, I mean, of all the obviously Zion missing is huge, but Jose Alvarado not being there is pretty big because we're all focused on like Shea,
Yeah.
and who's going to be guarding Shea, and obviously he's another body you can throw at Shea.
Mhm.
But when they're able to roll out, like Jose Alvarado, Josh Richardson, and Herb Jones
Mhm.
at the same time, and have one of those guys on basically all of OKC's ball handlers,
Yep.
that is kind of terrifying.
Mhm.
And they could probably switch all of those, so that feels big to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it is big. Yeah, especially if like Nance can't go
Yeah,
and Alvarado can't go. I mean, the Thunder are getting a lot of external help here.
as they have gotten. Hey, shout out to the Dallas Mavericks for giving us an extra couple days of rest
Yeah.
for our guys.
Yeah. Shea needs it. And the Thunder are having some of the most intense practices that they've had all since basically training camp.
Yeah, that will be kind of interesting. I'm obviously I'm not like a great X's and O's guys, but I'm interested to see the people who are, if they're able to pick out any like new stuff that Mark adds just for this game,
Mhm.
or like how he approaches this game, because this is the most time they've had to prepare for a game since All-Star break, which I'm assuming you don't like treat that next game after All-Star break like it's a huge playoff matchup.
Right.
So that's going to be one of the funnest things about this game.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing about it is like you're not holding anything back. Like in a playoff series, like you probably hold like a few wrinkles back until you get later in the series.
Yeah, how many minutes do you think Shea will play tonight?
I mean, I'd play him 45.
Oh my! How many guys on the roster do you think will play more than 5 minutes?
I think 8.
8. Okay.
I don't think they should play more than that. And unless things are if they play more than that, it's either things have gone so right or so wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
And are you thinking Joe and Saric?
Joe and Saric and Wiggs.
And Wiggs, yeah. Okay.
I mean, there's really nobody else that I'm like, you really need to give this guy a shot. I mean, maybe Lindy would be the other one. Where you just throw another shooting wing out there and just see what he can do. But I mean, I'm not throwing 19-year-old Ousmane Jang out there. No offense to Oos.
You don't want to get some Oos minutes?
No Oos minutes. I'm not throwing Jeremiah Robinson Earl out there. Yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not throwing Trey Mann out there. It's just give me those wings, and like the guys that are going to have the ball in their hands are Shea, Giddy, and J-Dub. And it's like, let's see what those guys can do. And
Dort.
I mean, Dort will be a part of this too. It will be he will be a part of this. Hey, shout out to Lou Dort, who, I know we want him to take more of a backseat than he has, and I think that's on its way. I think that's going to happen just naturally. But J-Dub and Giddy ended up having better scoring numbers than him this year, and he's a guy that has had a ton of volume over like the past several years, and mostly just out of necessity. But it's his second least amount of points per game in his career, next to his rookie season. So, and I expect that to even go down again next year as they integrate Chet. And, I think that is just going to happen naturally. But yeah, tonight, we talked about this with Michele, talked about this yesterday with a bunch of people. Thanks again to everybody for coming on and for everybody for listening and promoting that pod yesterday that included lots of different people. It was really fun to do. It took a ton of time, but it was really fun to get the perspective of lots of different people. But I'm just so intrigued to see how the Thunder integrate all the pieces, because it's so easy for the Pelicans to just say, you know what, Lou and Giddey, we don't really care at all if you guys are standing by the 3-point line. In fact, that's where we want you to be.
Yeah.
And if you guys stand there, it's going to be it's going to make it easier for us defensively to cover you guys. So you guys just stay over there, and we'll pack the paint, and we'll give you guys a soft closeout. You know, if you guys get the ball, and if you make it, who cares? You know, I don't know how Mark's going to integrate those guys, and if they, you know, put Giddey more into like the, you know, up in like a horns action. I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm intrigued to see, because I just don't think it's sustainable for Shea or for the Thunder offense to just have those guys sitting on the perimeter.
So over under combined 3-point attempts from Giddey and Dort. If I set it at 10.5, are you going over or under?
10.5.
Yeah.
I'll probably say over.
You sounded so sad saying over.
I just think it's going to be there.
I'll probably say over.
I just don't think either of those guys are going to be scared tonight. Like, I think Giddey is built for a game like this, where he's just going to be ultra competitive. Like, that was like one of the reasons why the Thunder loved him initially, was just his level of competitiveness. And then Dort is like never afraid of anything. You know, he's not going to shy away from taking shots, which is like honestly, it's a really good thing. And then it can also be a really bad thing. But I think those guys will take the open shot, and you want them to do that. You don't want them to like stall the offense out and record scratch and in the possession in like a gross way. Like, you'd rather them just shoot the open shots and let it fall as it will. You know, I had this stat on the show yesterday, and then also shared on the Dream Team yesterday. But in games this season where Dort shoots 6 or more threes, the Thunder are 18-21, which is like, when he shoots a lot of threes, it doesn't necessarily determine the outcome of the game. I was a little surprised by that. I thought it would be a little bit more skewed, but like, the truth is it doesn't really matter the amount that he takes. And in fact, like, when he takes like 9 or more threes, the Thunder he's only done that 3 times. They're 2-1. So it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world for Lou Dort to take the open 3 for this team. I mean, that's just what the stats tell us.
Well, it's one of those. It contributes to that stat that I was kind of following the whole season about how much better they performed than the rest of the league when they had games where they shot really poorly.
Yeah.
They were just good at figuring out how to win some of those games. Like, I'm looking at it right now. So this is just the number of games they won when they shot below 30%. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They won 8 games when they shot under 30%, which I can already tell you is a league leading.
Yeah.
Because I remember looking at the stat overall for the league, and no one was even close to the Thunder. So they have somehow figured out a way to win, even when their shot isn't falling. And sometimes when it's falling terribly. I mean, they had that game against the Clippers. This is like the greatest one, because it matched what they did against the Pacers, where they shot 4 for 30. They also shot 4 for 30 against the Clippers early in the season and actually won a game by 14 points somehow. So yeah, it's not like they definitely have to do it, but if they do shoot well and they continue what they do in terms of generating turnovers, I do think they will win. Now, they could still win other ways, but if they do those 2 things and lose, I would be pretty surprised.
Yeah. Aaron Wiggins has played 30 minutes or more in 6 games. What do you think their record is in those 6 games?
6 games?
Mm-hmm.
8-0.
In 6 games?
Yeah. 2 bonus wins.
It's actually 6-0.
I was pretty close. I got the losses correct.
They won all of them. And here's the teams that they beat. They beat Cleveland, Detroit, Boston, Golden State, Toronto, and the Clippers.
Yeah, and other than Detroit, all the rest of those teams are. I mean, those are all good teams
Yeah,
where you'd want to be playing your best guys.
yeah. And obviously, like those are just. I mean, it's all circumstantial. You can't like think that. But play Aaron Wiggins.
The circumstances that Aaron Wiggins is one of the best players, most important players on the team. That's what the circumstance is.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, how about this one? When Aaron Wiggins takes 11 or more shots in a game, what's the Thunder's record? That's it. That's also in 6 games.
I'll also go 8-0.
They are 5-1 when Aaron Wiggins takes 11 or more shots in a game.
Interesting.
I cut that off because when he takes 10 or more, they've lost. They are 6. Wait, no. Yeah, 6-4. When he takes 10.
So he has to get over 10.
So we got to do 11. We got to get to 11 for us to feel good. So if Wiggs can play more than 30 minutes and shoot more than 11 shots, feeling pretty good. Pretty good.
Honestly, this is one of my thoughts with like him versus Dort. Like obviously Dort is a much better defensive player.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I do like about Wiggins is that the types of shots he's generating, you need someone like that on the court at all times. Now, Dort can generate those shots too, but he's not as good. Like Dort is not as good cutting. He is not good around the rim. Wiggins is good at those things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the type of player when you have all these ball handlers that you kind of need as that final piece on the court with them.
And he's just bigger and taller and longer arms. He's 6'6".
Yeah.
6'3".
And that actually worries me more about Dort long term than his shooting. It's like because when he's in this smaller role, the type of shots he's going to need to be getting are the type of shots that Aaron Wiggins is getting right now.
Yeah.
And Wiggins has just been better at converting those shots. So whatever. That's a story for another day, Andrew.
Whatever.
Do you want to do season in review?
Yeah. Let's take a break and then we'll do season review. We'll be right back after this quick break. And we're back after that quick break. Let's answer this question real quick. This is from Michael McAfee in the chat. Former Panther Michael McAfee. Andrew, you referenced how Giddey is going to compete hard in the playoffs. What do you expect from him tonight? I expect Giddey to bring it tonight. I expect him to, this is the first time that these guys are like all eyes on the Thunder on the national stage. This is probably the other time that happened was against the Lakers when LeBron was going for the scoring record. But that night was just so much more about LeBron than it was the Thunder.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of whatever. But this night is going to be, if the Thunder win like they did against the Lakers in that game, it's going to be all about the Thunder, and these guys know that. And so I don't know how they'll play. I don't know how this all plays out for them, but I do think like the guys that I trust to really bring it, like Shea and Giddey and Dort, are probably like the top 3 that I think will not be scared of the moment kind of thing, that they will all bring it in a pretty big way. I asked Tyler Parker this question yesterday, like who are your top 5 players that you trust the most in this game? Who would you have on that list?
It probably doesn't go to 5 if I'm talking about genuinely trusting them, but in terms of what I trust them to bring, just energy-wise, not necessarily production, but just like not going to wilt in the moment, it would be Shea, Giddey, Dort, Wiggins,
okay,
and J-Dub.
Yeah,
I can get to 5.
I'm very interested in how J-Dub plays tonight because he's actually played pretty well against the Pels. And so if he can bring it tonight, I'm feeling pretty good about the Thunder's chances in this. But yeah, it's I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued to see how this goes tonight. I don't have like a strong feeling either way. You know, if I were to bet or like make like a true prediction, I would probably pick the Pelicans just because it's at home for them. And traditionally in these 9-10 matchups, it favors the home team. And it should. But also, like you said, I mean, it was the Spurs who were 14 games below 500 that were in the 10th seed last year. So this is a different animal.
Yeah, the last 2 seasons. I mean, the Spurs and the Hornets. This is the first time we have not had the Spurs or the Hornets as the 10th seed in either conference.
Yeah.
And outside of last year's Hornets team, who did win 43 games, the other 3 times there's been a 10 seed, they've all won around 33 or 34 games.
Yeah.
Yeah, the spread is currently plus 5.5 for OKC.
Yeah.
They're getting 5.5 points.
I saw that.
I think that's fair. Okay, so I went back and listened to all of our preseason pods because on those
Did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy the listen?
Actually, I really did. So the Fry pod that went off the rails.
Yeah.
I listened to that on 2 times speed, and it was extremely funny.
Yeah.
Because Luke just kept yelling, "What do you want to bet? What do you want to bet?" over and over again. And listening at 2 times speed was really funny. So I went back and listened to all the bold predictions that we made. Because, we make these bold predictions, and then they just go out into the ether, and no one remembers them, brings them back up again.
Yep.
So why not review them, see how everyone did? So I listened to both the pod we did with Michele,
Yep.
and then also the Fry pod. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So Michele, Josh Giddey will have at least 10 triple-doubles and 25-plus double-doubles. I went along with that, said Josh Giddey will lead the league in triple-doubles. His total this season, Andrew, do you know?
Was it like 3?
4.
4.
He tied with Westbrook for 7th most.
Wow.
Jokic had a season or a career high 29
Yeah.
triple-doubles, and then it was Sabonis at 14. However, the second part of that prediction from Michele, 25-plus double-doubles, he had 28.
Wow.
double-doubles.
A lot of double dubs.
So we'll give Michele half point on that.
There we go. There we go.
So this is going to be a theme, and probably the biggest takeaway from listening to these pods was how high everyone was on Trey Mann. Everyone. Michele, smart guy.
Huge Trey Mann guy.
Trey Mann will average 16 points per game, average 6.5 threes per game, meaning like attempts. Your immediate response was 6.5 3 attempts per game. Isn't that spicy?
Yeah.
That's how we were thinking. He attempted 3.8 threes per game. He averaged 7.7 points per game. Taylor said that Trey Mann would average 18 points per game, 47% from the field, 40% from 3. I mean, we were so high on Trey Mann, and it was useful to go back and listen to that because it switched within like 2 weeks, and we've never really gotten back to that level.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about him way more than we were talking about J-Dub. We actually were talking about Trey Mann as that kind of third piece, offensive piece, behind Shea and Giddey. It was going to be Trey Mann, and it was almost kind of like universal among everyone.
He was really good down the stretch, and then there was legitimate hype for him at media day from the players and like people around.
And we bought it hook, line, and sinker, Andrew.
We really did. I mean, it's I feel like a big dum-dum,
It's okay. I mean, he was. I remember him being good in the preseason, and then like his first couple games, he was just showing a lot, and then
I mean, remember Shea sat out because he had that, was it a hip contusion or something or whatever it was, and Trey was like basically their guy who stepped up to score the points for them. And I mean, you look at him post All-Star break last year, he was 15, almost 16, 5 and 3.
Yeah.
Last season, shooting 35% from 3 and 88% from the line. I mean, you just thought like, okay, like if he can bring this.
Well, even if you look his first 5 games of this season, he was almost 15 points, 14.8, 3 rebounds, 3 assists.
Yeah.
So through that first couple of weeks, we were feeling like, okay,
Here it comes. He's turned. Hey,
Michele.
you keep talking. I've got to hop off for just like 1 second.
Okay. The next bold prediction from Michele: Russell Westbrook will have a borderline all-star year. Now, depending on how wide you consider borderline to be, this technically could be correct. Obviously, had a much improved season after getting traded. But I don't know if I can give Michele any points for saying Russell Westbrook will have a borderline all-star year. At some point, once you get down the list of names, you would eventually have to consider Russell Westbrook. But my criteria for borderline is a little more narrow. Michele also said Miles Turner will get traded to Charlotte for Mark Williams, super specific, and the Pacers will be the worst team in the league. This thinking was not abnormal at that time. I was thinking the Pacers might be the worst team in the league. Turned out that they were pretty solid. Listen to this next one from Michele. Actually, I'm going to save this one for when Andrew gets back. He also said Jason Tatum will win MVP. Okay, getting to mine. SGA will be the only Thunder player to score more than 15 points per game. Unfortunately, it was 2. Josh Giddey, I guess fortunately. Josh Giddey was the only other one. He scored 16.6, so it actually wasn't that close. But I was on the right track. Just the idea that there were going to be multiple guys, of course I thought one of them was going to be Trey Mann, who score between like 10 and 15 points per game. We did have a lot of guys in that range with J-Dub and Dort, but Giddey was the one that kind of boosted that. Okay, Dallas Mavericks are a play-in team. I'm going to give myself half credit for that, okay? Half credit, half point for that. No, they were not a play-in team. They were actually worse than that, but that was pretty good. And then Minnesota will be the number 1 seed in the West. I'm going to give myself a negative 1 point for that because that was about as bad of a prediction as you can make. It was bold, though. And then final one, I said Dwayne Casey was the first coach to be fired. I think I was on the right track with this. It just turns out that the Detroit franchise loved getting fired, let go, but he's now moving into their front office. So he was never probably going to be the first coach fired just because Detroit loves him so much, even though their season did play out kind of how I thought it was going to play out. So not giving myself any points. Andrew, I wanted to wait till you were back.
Mm-hmm.
One of Michele's predictions. If you remove the tanking teams, Portland is the next team. They are the most likely of the next group to miss the play-in.
Wow.
We're giving him full point for that.
Yeah, that's a great one.
So he ended up with 1.5 points. What you missed was him saying that Russell Westbrook would be a borderline all-star.
Nope.
Okay. Mine that I haven't brought up yet, this was the one I was feeling best about. OKC will finish top half in three-point percentage.
Yeah, I remember
They finished the season at 17th.
Wow.
So close, but I don't get any points. 35.6%. The teams in front of them, other playing teams, Chicago Bulls and the New Orleans Pelicans. Those are the 2 teams that would have had to jump. It wasn't close enough where I could like kind of pretend because they were above 36%. Okay, Andrew, your predictions.
Mm-hmm.
Poku is going to shoot 39% from 3 this season.
Yeah.
If you had just pulled off the gas a little bit.
I know.
Because he ends up shooting 36.5%. If you had said 37%, I might have given it to you rounding up.
Yeah. It was very bold. You guys, I
very
remember you guys were so dismissive. You guys just thought I was the dumbest person to ever live.
I still think it's pretty dumb, but I have to admit he did significantly improve as a shooter.
He got a lot closer than anyone would have thought.
That is correct. Your second prediction, I don't know where this even came from. You said Lou Dort will average 20 points per game. That was one of your bold predictions.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that weird? Doesn't sound like something you would say, but you did.
That is I mean, I guess I was just going for bold.
You were. This
both.
next one, this was your best call.
Uh-huh.
You said Aaron Wiggins will play more minutes than Poku and Bays. And you and somebody said combined, and you said, no, not combined. That would be crazy. Guess what?
Is it combined?
Yes. Aaron Wiggins played 1,297 minutes. Poku plus Baisley played 1,256 minutes.
Wow. Wow.
Which I thought was great.
I've been a Wiggs believer for a while, man.
You have. So I'm going to give you 1 point for that.
Okay.
Very good. Taylor's bold predictions. Chet will play 25 games. Now, I think even if they make a run to the playoffs and start playing him tonight and win the finals, I don't know if he can get to 25 games. Maybe he could, actually.
Yeah.
So I guess this is I shouldn't count this out yet. Taylor picked the Lakers to win the championship. Maybe he's still feeling good about that. It's not dead.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
He said Minnesota will trade Cat and D'Lo this season. He got that half right.
You got a half right. Half point.
And then I think this was the funniest bold prediction. He randomly says at the very end of the pod, Jamal Mosley, coach of the year. Just like a really like boring random bold prediction.
The bold prediction that no one has ever cared about.
Yeah. Okay. Now we get to Jay's bold prediction.
Let's hear it.
First one, the Thunder will have 5+ players who shoot 40% from three. Now, he almost got this. There were 4 players, but what is funny is that he named his 5 guesses, and none of them were the guys who actually shot 40%. His 5 guesses were Muscala, makes sense, but had a down year, Lindy Waters, SGA, Trey Mann, of course, and then Lou Dort or JRE. It doesn't matter because neither of them did it.
Yeah.
The guys who actually shot 40% from three, Jared Butler, Isaiah Joe, Jay Will, and Darius Baisley.
Yeah. If that would have been really bold,
Predicting that Bays would shoot 40%.
He just predicted the 2 guys on the roster and then said, like, 2 additional guys will just do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 2 guys who are two-way players. Although I guess no, Isaiah Joe wasn't a two-way player.
No, he's been a standard contract. Yeah.
Okay, his next one was SGA will play 75 games this year, which I mean he was on the right path. He had the right idea that like Shea's going to play the entire season.
Yeah.
But it ended up only being 68 games.
68, yeah.
Still very good, but not 75.
Yeah.
J-Dub, first team all rookie, which you actually thought was bold at the time.
It did seem bold at the time.
That is definitely going to be correct.
It's happening. Yeah.
Amazing. Josh Giddey will shoot 33% from three. He shot 32.5%.
Give it to him.
I will round up.
Give him the point.
And then the New Orleans Pelicans will make the Western Conference Finals. Still to be determined, I guess, possible. So Jay actually won because he had 2 points, which is more than anyone else.
Yeah, those are some good ones.
And then finally, Luke's predictions. The John Hamm storyline in the Progressive Insurance commercial will end on Super Bowl Sunday when it is implied that John Hamm and Flo make love. I believe 0 points for that. Did not happen.
I believe I got extremely angry whenever he said that.
Because he spent so much time building it up and explaining it.
Yeah, he took so much time, and I'm like, this is like the season preview show. Like this is like, what are we doing? We got to be locked in. Like it's not August anymore.
His next prediction: they're going to make a new NBA award around All-Star Weekend for worst dressed coach, and the inaugural winner will be Mark Daigneault. Next prediction: SGA will be traded by Christmas. And final prediction: Dwight Howard will appear in the WWE Royal Rumble, which I did Google to see if that happened, and it did not.
Yeah, he did appear. He did appear in a 3-point contest in China, though.
Yes, that is true. So in terms of the final results, Jay won. Jay hit most of his most amount of bold predictions. He was pretty close on a third one, so he hit 2, got close on a third.
Yeah.
Final win predictions. This is what I was thought was kind of interesting, just to see where we come, how far we have come. And Luke had him at 20, Taylor had him at 26, you had him at 26, and Jay had him at 27. So no one had him over 27 wins.
Yeah.
Which, looking back, I was thinking, I thought someone said like 33 or 34 as like a choose dumb option, but we were all like.
What did McKelly say? Did McKelly give one?
I couldn't find one for McKelly.
I'm pretty sure he was in the 30s.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we have to give him a point for that. That could swing this.
McKelly was in the 30s. Like I know he was.
Well,
yeah,
then,
he said with Chet, I think he said 36 with Chet.
Yeah.
Without Chet, I think he said like 31 or 33. I can't remember which, but I know he was in the 30s.
So that's just perspective for how we as fans, big fans, we're thinking about this team. And so it's not even something that we can say like, hey, you guys just weren't paying attention, because we were paying attention, and these were our predictions.
Very much so. Yeah, and I mean it's also just kind of crazy how much the team has changed since the beginning of the season. When you look at the starting lineup and like the rotations that were going on at the time, Shea returned for let me pick a game that was kind of more into the season. So they played the Bucks, and they played them actually pretty close. But their starting lineup was SGA, Dort, Giddey, Poku, and JRE.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a starting lineup that I don't think that any of us could really fathom. You know, today.
Now.
Yeah. And then like the guys that played the most off the bench, Trey Mann played 35, almost 36 minutes in that game against the Bucks. And then like J-Dub only played 22, Muscala played 17, Kennard 17. And then like Wiggins and Joe and Baisley just played garbage time.
It's a testament to what they did on the back end of this roster, because that's one of the reasons why we were so focused on Trey Mann coming into the season. Yeah. And we're initially correct. Like, he was getting that kind of the big minute guy off the bench. He was playing that role, and probably would have continued to play that role if they had not bolstered the back end of the bench the way they did. Yeah. But then all of a sudden, where you have J-Dub, you have Isaiah Joe, you still have Aaron Wiggins, obviously, you have all these options that as the season went on, it became clear that, you know, we need to play these guys over Trey Mann.
Yep.
Yeah, that was like a huge switch from where we were at the beginning of the season. We were obviously not talking about Isaiah Joe. And even our excitement for J-Dub was still kind of like mild. Like, we were impressed with him in preseason, saying, hey, this looks like a guy who's like pretty ready to play right now. He's probably going to be getting some minutes off the bench. But for him to go from that to 30-minute per game starter, obvious first team all rookie, we weren't even talking about that really, other than Jay. Shout out to Jay.
Yeah, our excitement was pretty muted.
Yeah.
At that time for him.
And part of that was because so much of the focus was on Chet.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, and I mean, Poku was such a big part of the start of the season too. And who knows, maybe he could have like kept rolling if he didn't get hurt and didn't break his leg.
Yeah.
But like, he was the like cemented starter. Like, even into December, the starting lineup, like J-Dub had taken over the starting spot, but it was still Poku that started instead of Jay Will. I mean, Jay Will did not really get inserted into this lineup until like 2023, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, in the early returns, when he just started getting some spot minutes, weren't great. And so we were kind of like, oh, I guess it'll be back to Jerry whenever he comes back.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Going into next season, if you had to predict right now, the three guys who feel like they're on the outside of the rotation that we thought were going to be in the rotation at the start of the season, Poku, Jerry, Trey Mann, which of those three do you think have the best chance to be playing even a small role next season?
I guess I'll still say Poku, because they want to figure out what they've got. You know, I don't know that he gets an extension this summer, but I think that this really kind of his last like real look.
Yeah.
You know, where like, and he still has like a little bit of upside just because of his just unusual skill set. But like, you look at the role of like Trey, like Trey's got to have just a crazy good summer. Same for Jeremiah. Like, those guys just have to have like really, really great summers in order to like really make it. Because I mean, when Jeremiah's out there, you just kind of feel like, what's he doing? Like, what does he do for this team? Is kind of what I think. You know, what does he do to like really accentuate this team? Like, he's just kind of a placeholder guy that'll shoot corner threes and be a decent defender, but he's not a great defender.
I think he might be get the most benefit out of Chet being back, because I think it's clear that Jerry is not a center. Like, he doesn't really offer you any rim protection. And the thing that he does do well defensively, moving his feet on the perimeter for a big, he doesn't get to do that a lot when he's playing at the 5. Maybe next year, if he's playing backup 4 minutes or something and he's paired with Chet, all of a sudden he makes more sense on this team. Obviously, the shot still has to come back.
Yeah.
But maybe he would make more sense in that backup 4 role, because he would offer some much needed size for different matchups.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah, and then it's just, you have to ask the question like, can Jay, Will, and Chet play together? Or is like Jay Will destined to be like a backup center?
Yeah.
Team that just plays spot minutes behind Chet.
Yeah.
I mean, Trey's going to get more chances, I think, but he's got to be pretty good from the jump.
I think the scariest thing for Trey, hopefully he's not looking at mock drafts, because it feels like in this range where the Thunder are going to be, it is all combo guards.
So many guards.
It's just a flood of combo guards who could potentially be Trey Man replacement if the Thunder really liked one of them.
Yeah, and they're all kind of falling, like Cason Wallace and Nick Smith and Keontae George, Jalen Hood, Scafino. I don't necessarily like any of those guys all that much. I probably like Keontae George the most out of that whole group. But yeah, they're all combo guards that have like better size than Trey. So yeah, I don't know what they do. If that's where they, if they land at 11 or 12 or wherever it is.
Yeah, like starting at 11, I'm looking at Gavoni's mock from today.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Hawkins, Nick Smith Jr., Keontae George, Cason Wallace, Jalen Hood, Shafino, then Noah Clowney, who's power forward, Jet Howard, Bryce Sensabaugh. I guess he's a little bit bigger. But yeah, there's just so many of those, the point guard / shooting guard, how they're listed on here.
Mm-hmm.
All in a row.
Oh, there's also a guy named Kobe Buffkin who we're going to
Kobe Buffkin, yeah. He's a little bit further down in this one, but yes, he is at 22 on this one.
Maybe the best name in the draft, Kobe Buffkin.
Buffkin. I think we could have some fun with that last name.
Would you buy a Buffkin jersey?
I might buy a Buffkin shirt if we can make one.
Yeah, we need to. If we draft Kobe Buffkin, you better believe we're making a Buffkin shirt. Great name. Oh my gosh, I love that name. Yeah. Okay, give me your official Al Baby Cakes prediction for the playing game tonight before we go.
I'm going to take the Pelicans, and I will say it'll be. I mean, all these games are close, so I'll say 105-99.
Okay. I'm going to take the Thunder tonight.
Final score, Andrew.
I think they're going to win 108-104.
Okay. Hey, hold us to it, folks. If we get it wrong,
hold us to it. Yeah,
let us know. Send us a bunch of DMs.
Shame us in our DMs. Oh man. Hey, enjoy the game tonight. It's just enjoy it. Whatever happens, it's not going to determine the direction of this franchise, and just like if they lose, it's like the outcome is, oh, boo-hoo, they get a lottery pick, like they get a pretty good pick. And if they win 2 games, they don't get the lottery pick, but they get playoff experience. I mean, to me, there's not any like truly awful outcome here for this team. So just enjoy that. Just enjoy the fact that, this is a fun team. This is a fun young team. This is supposed to be the fun part of being a fan of a team like this. So enjoy it tonight, and we will talk to you guys again on Friday.